المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أرواحنا له فداء. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل من حرم زينة الله التي أخرج لعباده والطيبات من الرزق. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. First and foremost, I give my condolences to all of you on the occasion which we have come to commemorate, and that is the Shahada, the martyrdom of Imam Jawad alayhi afdal salatu wassalam. Tonight is the eve of the Shahadat of Imam Muhammad ibn Ali al-Jawad al-Taqi, meaning that this would be the last night that he would have upon this earth, and tomorrow will be the actual Shahada. So we come and we commemorate the life of this great Imam, and to remember his words of wisdom and what we may learn from his life. I think early in the week we've mentioned several points about the life of Imam Jawad alayhi salatu wasalam, about the wisdom that he has imparted and he has left for those who are his followers. And tonight we'll mention another set of wisdom, one which actually helps us to understand something that Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam himself had stated. And we've heard this hadith from Imam Sadiq numerous of times, where the Imam, he stated, and this is particularly to those who claim to follow Imam Sadiq, he said, "Kunu zaynan lana wa la takunu shaynan lana." To be an ornament for us, to be a symbol of pride for Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdal salatu wasalam, meaning that be an individual who has learned the teachings of Ahlul Bayt and represent the Ahlul Bayt through your actions. And do not be a point of disappointment for Ahlul Bayt. وَلَا تَكُونُوا شَيْئًا لَنَا. We find in the words of Imam Jawad alayhi salatu wasalam what could be considered a commentary or explanation and expounding upon these beautiful words from Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. But before we actually touch on those words, and it's fairly long hadith, or there are several points that's mentioned there, I will only reference and mention a few of those things which Imam Jawad alayhi salatu wasalam, he states in what I say is a commentary of the words of Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. But before we do so, it is important for us to understand this idea and concept of zina. This is the root of what the Imam is saying, kunu zayna lana. So be an ornament, be something that is beautiful, that people want to look at, that people want to, again, place themselves in such a situation. And this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself, he states in the Quran about this idea and this concept of zina. In verse 32 of Surah Al-A'raf, so chapter 7, verse 32, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, قُلْ مَنْ حَرَّمَ زِينَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي أَخْرَجَ لِعِبَادِهِ وَالطَّيِّبَاتِ مِنَ الرِّزْقِ. This is just the first part of this ayah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he poses a rhetorical question. And that rhetorical question is meant to make those who hear this question think that about those things that come after, that what are those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about? He says, say, and he's talking to his prophet, say, who has forbidden or who has prohibited those adornments, zinatullah, the divine and godly adornments that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created for his servants. And who has also prohibited and forbidden at-tayyibati min ar-rizq, those permissible things, the beautiful things among the sustenance, again, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has created. So, akhraja li ibadihi, meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala khalaqa li ibadihi. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has created, or even we can say that from this earth and from the heavens and the earth, He has brought about and He has put forth things which are zina. And He calls them zinatullah. And He has created it for whom? For His servants. So in other words, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as He also states in elsewhere, He says, whatever He has created in this earth, He has created it for you. And some of those things which are created from this earth that we use, whether it's cotton, whether it's different fabrics, He's created it so that we may adorn ourselves with it. But the condition also is that those things have to, in some way, also be connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In other words, they must be within the parameters and the context of the Sharia. And this is something that's quite interesting, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here, He's talking about a type of zina that is good, a type of an adornment that is good. Because there is an adornment, we can perhaps wear certain things, we can perhaps, eat certain ways, or we can perhaps live a certain lifestyle that may not be permissible. And perhaps in the eyes of some people, they may think that, oh, wow, this is beautiful, it is fantastic, it is, it has the bling, But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, yes, He has created those things, whatever it may be in this earth. It may be diamonds, it may be gold, it may be silk, it may be whatever. And He has created it for the believers, and use those things for yourselves, to adorn yourselves, but use it within the context of the Sharia. So, for example, that gold is an adornment. He's made it permissible for women to wear, but men cannot wear. They can't wear gold rings or these things. So use it. Or if a man has a gold tooth, then there's nothing wrong with that, according to Sharia. But nonetheless, these things which are being used, these things which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created, He has created for mankind. So use it with His permission and within the context of His Sharia. And likewise, sustenance. That halal sustenance has been created for mankind. One of the things that this verse also indicates, that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about zina in this way, and of course He has stated that zuyina lil-nas or zuyina lil-insan shahawat. So yes, that's a type of zina that is not permissible, that if a person is going after his desires. Zuyina lil-insan hubba shahawat, that to love and to desire those things, purely what his nafs wants, what his lower self wants, then that type of thing is not considered a godly or divine zinat, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning here, zinatullah. But those things which are permissible is zinatullah. These things which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is referring to, and what it's mentioned here, or if we take this into its context, one of the things which we should understand is that when we partake, or when we use those things which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created for us in this world, that we use them in order to gain closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That if that thing, even if it's something that, okay, a person may have a liking for shoes. I know some people, especially sometimes the youth, they like shoes and they like to wear the latest brand of shoes. And, sometimes, I guess, as older people, when you think, why would you spend that much money on a shoe? You're putting it on your foot. You're putting it on your feet. You're going to walk in it, and it's going to wear out. But they may like these type of things. And as long as it is, again, within the context of the Sharia, it is not going to an extreme ifrat or tafrit to the point that, okay, a person is buying so much they put themselves in difficulties, then fine. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you with something, وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. Allah has blessed you, then again, present the blessing and the ni'mat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And don't allow it, but don't allow that to take you outside the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In other words, it is advocating a balance. And this concept of zina, especially when it's connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or the awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this zinatullah, or what Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam, he states, he says, kunu zayna lana wa la takunu shayna lana. In other words, one must have a balance in life, because it is not a life which is to either extreme, which is an ornament or is an adornment. It is not attractive. To go to one extreme or the other is not attractive, and it doesn't attract anyone to your way of life. But to have the proper balance in life, this is what is attractive. Not to go to one extreme where you're just getting everything, or to live so poorly that people are looking, you're walking around and you're not looking presentable. That's also not a divine or a godly type of zina. But to be modest, to have balance, to be in the middle. So this is the idea and the concept of zina. This godly ornament, ornament that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created for His servants. This is what Imam Sadiq, he is intending, that kunu zayna lana wa la takunu shayna lana. That's live a balanced life. Even we find an example of this in the life of Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam himself, and an example that you've perhaps heard before. I'm not going to go into much details, but it's stated that once the Imam Sadiq, he was walking in the streets of Medina, he had a very nice kaba, this outer garment, very nice kaba. And so one person came to him and says, why are you wearing such a nice kaba? You're wearing this thing, and your father, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, alayhi salatu wasalam, that when he walked the streets of Medina, we see that sometimes he would have patches that he sewed himself in his kaba. So, and this individual was wearing very rough and abrasive kaba, very rough, out of wool. And so Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam, he says, listen, the time has changed. The status of the society is such that this is something that is not too expensive in the society. It's moderate. At the time of my father, that was the time that most people were wearing. He dressed like the majority of the people. He says, and I wear this because, again, this is what the general status is. He says, but if you want to see what I wear for myself, he opens his kaba up and he sees that there's a rough shirt that he has patches on. He says, and this I wear close to my body. I wear it so that no one sees it, so it doesn't bring down the status of the ummah, of the community. But this is what I wear because it is that which humbles me. It is that which is between me and Allah. He says, but what do you have under your kaba? So this individual who's wearing the rough wool kaba, when he opened it up, the cloth was very soft and silky and easy. So he says that you have this outer appearance which seems to be that you are being humble and low, but your inside is very, expensive. So what you're doing on the outside is just show. It's nothing but show. So to have this balance, to have this, again, divine ornament that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking about in Surah Al-A'raf, and what the Imam here encourages to have. We can have it in any aspect of our lives, depending on what our status may be or may not be. And this is something we learned from Imam Jawad alayhi salatu wasalam. Because he actually begins to categorize in this statement, which I want to make of his, he actually advises us how to have zina. What aspect of adornment we should have, again, based on our situation, on our circumstances. So he states that al-afaf zinatul faqr. So he says if a person is poor, meaning that he doesn't have much wealth, then what he should take, or he or she should take as their zina, as their adornment, is afaf, dignity and honor. Person may not have much, but what they should have and what they should adorn themselves with is dignity. And what it means by this is that a person, though you may not be the most affluent individual, but you don't lower your status nor to take your dignity away simply to gain wealth. Maintain your dignity in front of any irreligious or any offer that takes you out of the context of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from you. It is better to, again, this is even one of the words of Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says, it is better to be poor and to have your dignity than to have wealth and to be someone who has no dignity, has no shame. So as a poor person, maintain your dignity. Maintain your, again, identity. And this is one of the things I'll mention in a reference. We mentioned before about two individuals who came to Imam Rida alayhi salatu wasalam, Ahmed ibn Umar, Ahmed ibn Umar al-Halabi, and Hussein ibn Thuwair. I don't know if you guys remember that speech. You can go back, you can remember. But these are two individuals who were affluent, and because of the change of circumstances, their wealth decreased, and they went to Imam Rida alayhi salatu wasalam. They asked him to pray that our status returns back to what it was. And he questioned them. He says, so what do you want? Do you want me to make dua that you become as affluent as you were before, and at the expense that you give up the wilayat of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad? And they said, no, we don't want that. In other words, they wanted to, even if they were in a position of difficulty, they wanted to maintain their dignity, maintain their honor. Unlike one individual in that same hadith, when you read the long hadith, an individual by the name of Ibn Qiyamah. And Imam Rida, he asked him, he says, have you seen Ibn Qiyamah? Have you interacted with him? And they said, yeah, we saw him. And Imam, he asked, he says, do you know why he began to doubt? Because he used to be among the Shia of Ahlul Bayt. He used to be among the supporters of Imam Rida, Ibn Qiyamah. But Imam Rida, he says, shakka, he began to doubt. Why? Because he wanted power. Once Imam, he became the representative, or supposedly heir of Ma'mun, then he came to Imam Rida. He says, okay, now you're gone. Appoint me as the person who is over the Masjid al-Rasul, to sit and to give the rulings and to be the manager of Masjid al-Rasul. But of course, we know the position of Imam Rida. At that time, he says, no, I'm not going to appoint anyone. I'm not going to take anyone out of position. He says, this is not why I took this position. So he became mad, and Ibn Qiyamah, he left out of the wilayat of Ahlul Bayt simply because he wanted this position. So zinatul, so al-afaf, dignity and honor, zinatul faqr. He says, وَالشُّكْرُ زِينَةُ الْغِنَى. And if a person has wealth, what he should adorn himself or she should adorn herself with is shukr. To be grateful, to be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this ni'mah, not to have kufranu ni'mah. The opposite of shukr is kufranu ni'mah. To disregard the blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given an individual. And to be thankful for that ni'mah, that ghina, that wealth, part of it is, again, to observe one's duty and obligation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He places on him. That individual who has wealth. من حرم زينة الله التي أخرج لعباده وَالطَّيِّبَاتِ مِنَ الرِّزْقِ. So at sometimes that individual who may forbid and prohibit and ban that zinat, that ornament, that ornament of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sometimes it's another individual who may want you to stop that blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, stop you from having it. Sometimes it is ourselves. That if we're not observing what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to observe, then we're actually forbidding, we're actually blocking, we're actually banning ourselves from that blessing and the beauty of that blessing. So one of those things that if we have wealth or we are affluent, then to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that blessing, that wealth that He has given it, then we observe the rights of those who are less fortunate than ourselves. In the zakat, in the sadaqah, in the charity, the alms, in the khums, to pay our dues. Because this is giving thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, this is one of the greatest lessons we learn from Imam Jawad alayhi salatu. In fact, that's how he achieved, or at least he was given this name, this title, Al-Jawad, because he was so generous. That what he had, he would give. He would give. So shukr zinatul ghina. Was-sabru zinatul bala. And if we are among those individuals who are facing difficulties, al-bala, then we should adorn ourselves with sabr, with patience. It is through patience that we will be victorious in the face of such calamities and difficulties. It is our patience which will, again, it will help us to navigate through those difficulties, those trying times. One of those examples that we gave was that of the dua of Imam Jawad alayhi salatu wasalam, that he wrote specifically for one individual who was in prison. And that dua was delivered by Ali ibn Mahziyar. He delivered it to that individual. This individual recited the dua, and shortly thereafter, he was freed from prison. Another such story that actually it also combines this idea of having dignity as well, afaf, and also this instance of being patient. An individual by the name of Ali ibn Khalid. He was someone who lived during the time of Imam Jawad alayhi salatu wasalam. And he was not someone who accepted all of the imams. He had love for Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, but his imamate ended with Zayd, so he was actually Zaydi. But nonetheless, as we mentioned before, that even during that time, those individuals, though they did not accept, for example, the wilayat of Imam Rida or that of Imam Jawad, they still had love for them because they were from the awlad al-Nabi. They were from the children of the Prophet. Ali ibn Khalid, he narrates, he says that one time, and he had actually begun to work for the government, for Mu'tasim. And he was in the army, he was a soldier. He said at one time they captured this individual in Damascus, man from Damascus. And so as they were bringing him towards Iraq, he was telling Ali ibn Khalid, he was like, I met this, individual once, and he was narrating the story of how he met Imam Jawad alayhi salatu wasalam. He said that this guy, this individual from Damascus, his name is not mentioned in the hadith, he says, once I was in Damascus and I was praying in the masjid. This is the famous masjid in Damascus, the one that Yazid was at, and they held the Ahlul Bayt captive. And one of the places, if you've ever gone to the masjid in Damascus, there's a spot where he said that the head of Imam Hussein was actually held there. So this individual said that he was there, he was praying. And as he was praying, he sees someone come in. This young man comes in, and after he prayed, the young man told him, he says, come with me. He says, oh, okay. So he walks out, he says, they took a few steps, and then he noticed that they were in Masjid al-Kufa. He says, the young man turned to him, and he said, do you recognize this masjid? He says, yes, this is Masjid al-Kufa. This is, Masjid of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He says, so they prayed 2 rakats, and that there some a'mal there in the masjid. He says, come with me. And he walks out, he says, and they take a few steps, and then they're at Masjid al-Rasul. And they make ziyarah to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And then after that, Imam Jawad, he goes out, and then the man follows him, and they take a few steps, and then they are at the Kaaba. They make tawaf, and once they leave from the Kaaba, they are back in Damascus at the masjid, the place where the head of Imam Hussein is kept. So this man, he looked and he said, well, before I can ask him who he was gone. He says, the next year, the same thing happened. He said, because I go every year and I make my ziyarat and I go and I visit the place where the head of Imam Hussein was kept. He says, but before he left this time, I asked him, I says, by the right of he who is giving you the ability to do this, he says, Man anta? And the man said, Ana Muhammad ibn Ali. Ana Muhammad ibn Ali. Ibn Musa ibn Ja'far. He says, I am Imam Jawad. So this individual from Damascus, he narrates this to Ali ibn Khalid, who was a soldier for Mu'tasim. So at that point, this individual, he immediately says, well, apparently he's a lover of Ahlul Bayt. So let me try to assist this individual to help him out of this difficulty, because at the point he's arrested, and most likely what will happen is that he will be executed. So he went to his higher-ups, Ali ibn Khalid went to his higher-ups to figure out, can we do something for this individual? Can we, at least forgive him for whatever he's done? Apparently he was not in favor of the government at the time when Mu'tasim was government. He says, can we just do something? And so Ali ibn Khalid, he mentioned the same story of this man from Damascus. That, he knows, Muhammad ibn Ali, and we know that Imam Jawad, Muhammad ibn Ali al-Jawad, alayhi sallam, he's married to al-Fadl, he's married to the sister of Mu'tasim. That at least let this be a barakah that we release this guy. So his superior told Ali ibn Khalid, he says, you know what? He says, let the same person who took him from the Masjid of Sham to Kufa to Medina and to Mecca, let him come and get him. We have no hope for him. He'll be executed tomorrow. He says, but if that guy can come get him, then let it be. This is what the superior of Ali ibn Khalid told him. So Ali ibn Khalid, he said, I went home and I was very distraught. I went home. And so I had intended to go in the morning to tell this individual that there's no hope. Just have sabr. Have patience. Just have sabr. And pray to Allah. Because these individuals, they won't let you go. So Ali ibn Khalid said, he says, I woke up the next morning and I went towards the prison where he was being held. He says, and this individual, he was chained up. He couldn't move. He was chained and he was locked down to something. He says, when he went, he saw that the soldiers, they were running around the camp. They were looking, and he says, what is going on? Why are you guys, running around the camp? Why are you doing? He says, our prisoner has vanished. We don't know where he is. So Ali ibn Khalid says, what do you mean you don't know where he is? Wasn't there someone standing guard? He says, yes, we were standing guard all night. The guards didn't fall asleep. He's just gone. Then Ali ibn Khalid, he said, at that moment, he says, Ahsantu i'tiqadi. He says, at that point, he says, he knew that, yes, that this has to be the Imam. And then he accepted the wilayat of Imam Jawad. He switched from what his aqidah was and became, again, a follower of the Imam of his time. This patience in the face of calamity is what we must adorn ourselves with. This patience in face of calamity, and one of the biggest lessons we learn from Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdhalu salatu wassalam. والصبر زينة البلاء والسكينة زينة العبادة. And to be calm, to be tranquil while you're praying, he says this is the adornment of ibadah. When we pray, when we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we should have this tranquility. We should focus on this tranquility. وَالْعَدْلِ زِينَةُ الْإِيمَانِ. And being just, being upright, being fair, this is the adornment of Iman. That if we claim to be mu'min, or even if we're striving to be mu'min, and those are the ones who definitely they follow the way of Ahlul Bayt, then you should adorn yourself with justice, being fair. If you do not adorn yourself with being fair, then again, Iman, you haven't taken on this true quality of being mu'min. وَالْحِفْظ زِينَةُ الرِّوَايَةِ. And we're just mentioning some of the things that Imam Jawad, he's stating. There's some others, but we, inshallah, perhaps later we'll go into those things. الْحِفْظ زِينَةُ الرِّوَايَةِ. To remember. Remember the words of Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdhalu salatu wasalam. This is zinatul riwayah. Again, we have so many statements from them, so many advices from them, all to, again, help us to be better people. To help us, again, to move forward and navigate through this life and through this world. But if we're not going to remember those things, we don't take time to remember those things, and again, we haven't adorned ourselves with those precious words, those treasures that the Ahlul Bayt has left for us. So we should take time, we should remember the words of Ahlul Bayt. Al-hifdh zinatul riwayah. And near the end of these group of things, the Imam, he states, and subhanAllah, it's an interesting statement. He says that kathratul buka zinatul khawf. Kathratul buka zinatul khawf. So to cry in abundance, he says, this is zinatul khawf. This is the adornment of someone who has fear. And of course, we've spoken about fear before, fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's not fear of Allah's wrath and his punishment, again, at least for the person who's a believer, not fear that out of his punishment, out of his wrath, but fear out of disconnecting from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if anything should make us cry, it is that fear of disconnecting, of understanding the beauty of Islam, understanding the beauty of the life of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad, and not connecting to that, and being disconnected from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is something that, again, even in this very night we recite it in dua kami. Ilahi wa Sayyidi wa Rabbi wa Mawlai li'ayyi umurin ilayka ashku walima minha adijju wa abki li'alim al-adhabi wa shiddati amlitu lil-bala'i wa muddati. That, oh Allah, for what thing should I complain to you? For what should I cry and shout out towards you? Severity of the punishment that I may face, or the extent that that punishment will be. فَلَئِنْ سَيَّرْتَنِي لِلْعُقُوبَاتِ مَعَ أَعْدَائِكَ وَفَرَّقْتَ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَ أَحِبَّائِكَ وَأَوْلِيَائِكَ فَحَبِّنِي صَبَرْتُ عَلَى عَذَابِكَ فَكَيْفَ أَصْبِرُ عَلَى فِرَاقِكَ. That, oh Allah, that even if you throw me in hell and you punish me with those who are your enemies, this is after I know who you are, Allah. You punish me with your enemies. That, oh Allah, that give me patience. I'll be patient with regards to that punishment, with regards to the fire, but how can I be patient to be separated from you? To be separated from your awliya, to be separated from those who love you. The meaning of that, kathratul baka, zinatul khawf. That to cry, and to cry a lot because of fear. Not fear of that punishment, but fear to be disconnected from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fear to be out of the wilayat of Muhammad wa al Muhammad. But unfortunately, this is something that those who were the enemies of Allah, those who were the enemies of Ahlul Bayt, they had no perception, no understanding of. And this is why we see that one after the other, one imam after the other imam being martyred, being slain, being poisoned, or killed by the sword on the battlefield like Hussein. It's said that Mu'tasim, he had a disliking for Imam Jawad alayhi salam. According to some of the historians, they say that one of the things that made Mu'tasim angry and really wanting to kill Imam Jawad is that once that Mu'tasim, they wanted to punish someone for stealing. And the judges at his court, they couldn't agree that where should the hand be cut, al-yad. Should it be cut from the elbow? Should it be cut from here? Should it be cut from there? And so someone said, why don't we bring in Muhammad ibn Ali al-Jawad? And he said that, no, only the fingers should be cut. And they said, why? He says, why the fingers? It says that the yad should be cut. He says, haven't you read the Quran? Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He stated, وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. He says, these masajid, the place of prostration, is only for Allah. No one has right to take and remove the places of prostration. So at that point, all of the judges, they said that, yes, this makes sense. And Mu'tasim, he says, then we'll do that. The chief of the judges, he went to Mu'tasim afterwards. He says, this is dangerous. He says, though we have ruled by what Muhammad ibn Ali al-Jawad, what he has stated, he says that if your soldiers and if the people understood that you have ruled by what he has judged, then people will start to say that he has more right to rule than you. So the chief judge, he says, so I urge you to kill him. Take his life. Otherwise, you will lose your status and your position. And so Mu'tasim, already harboring anger for Imam al-Jawad, he says, yes, this is the best of the advice. So he called and he spoke with al-Fadl. Who al-Fadl, she was not fond of Sumana, the mother of Imam al-Hadi. al-Fadl, she had no children, and she was jealous, it stated, that of al-Hadi. So she agreed to poison Imam al-Jawad. And the Maqtal stated that on that day that she decided to poison her husband. It was a day that Imam Jawad, he was fasting. And imagine to be poisoned on a day when you're fasting, the whole day that you are going hungry. And you sit down to have iftar. And when you consume your iftar, you consume your drink, that you feel the pains of the poison. It is said that once Imam Jawad, he drank the poison, once he consumed it, he said immediately he felt the poison running through his body. Again, his stomach was empty. He said that Imam Jawad, that when he felt this, he looked towards al-Fadl. He says, وَيْلَكِ قَتَلْتِنِي قَاتَلَكِ اللَّهِ. He says, woe be upon you, that you have poisoned me, you have killed me. Allah, He will take your life, He will kill you. And it is said that Imam al-Jawad, that from the shiddat poison, from the strength of the poison, it says يَتَقَلَّبُ عَلَى الْعَرْضِ يَمِينًا وَشِمَالًا. They said that Imam Jawad, he was holding himself, twisting towards the right and left, min shiddat al-waj'a, that because he was in so much pain. They said that Imam Jawad, at that point, he asked al-Fadl, he says, listen, that if you have killed me, فَإِسْقِينِي شَيْئًا مِنَ الْمَاءِ, he says, at least give me something to water to drink, something that is not poison, some water so I can quench my thirst. He said this with a low voice. But what did al-Fadl do? She did not give water to Imam Jawad. According to the Maqtal, it says, ما سقط al-Fadl الإمام الجواد بل أغلقت الباب خرجت من الدار. It says, what did she do? She did not give the Imam water, but rather she locked the door. She locked the door to the room and she left from the house. They said that Imam al-Jawad, for the next couple of days, ليلا ونهارا يوما وليلة كان يعالج سكرات الموت, that he was dealing with the pains of death حتى قضى نحبه ولقي ربه. So until he died. This was the state of Imam Jawad. رحم الله من نادى وسيدا وسيدا وإماما ومسموما إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. اللهم بحق هذه المجلس المحمدية الجوادية اغفر ذنوبنا واستر عيوبنا واقضي حوائجنا واشفي مرضانا وارحم أمواتنا وعجل فرج مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان واجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره والمستشهدين بين يديه وتحت لوائه بحق محمد وآله الطاهرين.
We don't have Latamia today, so we'll just do ziyarah, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين سيد الوسيين السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس يا ابن أمير المؤمنين السلام عليك يا هاني بن عروة السلام عليك يا حبيب بن مظاهر السلام عليك يا حر الشهيد الرياحي ساداتي ومولاي جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي المجتبى السلام عليك يا حسين بن علي الشهيد السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين زين العابدين السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الباقر السلام عليك السلام عليك السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الباقر السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر الكاظم السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى الرضا السلام عليك يا علي محمد بن علي الجواد السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد الهادي السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي العسكري السلام عليك يا مولاي يا صاحب العصر والزمان السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن السلام عليك يا مزهر الإيمان السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان عجل الله تعالى فرجه وسهل الله تعالى مخرجه وظهورك وجعلنا الله من أنصاره وأوانه السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.